The Attorney General for Texas, Ken Paxton, the guy who was charged with being a criminal, shall we say, a wildly cruel and corrupt Christian nationalist who was impeached by House Republicans last year and kept his job thanks to the more MAGA Senate Republicans, is how he's described in a piece over at friendlyatheist.com. He is suing a homeless shelter in Texas for, quote, operating a taxpayer-funded drug paraphernalia giveaway next to an elementary school. It is true that Sunrise Homeless Navigation Center is in the neighborhood of an elementary school. And it is true that homeless people and drug addicts go there, and some of the drug addicts go there to get clean needles to prevent them from getting AIDS or Hep C or other diseases that are transmitted by people using needles. And it is true that these people really need help. I mean, they're genuinely homeless and genuinely drug addicted. And Ken Paxton's trying to shut them down, saying that there's a school and the neighborhoods don't like homeless people. But he doesn't want to replace it with anything. What are you going to do? You shut that down, and where are these homeless? I mean, it's just going to make the situation worse, right? So the charity is fighting back, and they're saying we have a religious liberty under the First Amendment. We have the right to do things because of our faith. Now, this is something that the Supreme Court has reaffirmed over and over and over again. You don't have to bake a cake for a queer couple if your religion doesn't like queer people, right? You don't have to officiate at a wedding. You don't have to provide services in many ways to people if your religion opposes it. Used to be they quoted Christianity to prevent, to withhold services from black people. Now it's queer people. But, bottom line, and Paxton is basically saying, you can't use religion to provide. This is kind of the opposite of it, right? The Supreme Court has said, yes, religion allows you to be a bigot, basically. Well, here comes a church. This is the Sunrise Community Church is part of the Reformed Church of America, which is generally a liberal Protestant branch. And, they run homeless shelters and things. I mean, that is literally doing what Jesus said in Matthew 25, serving the least of these among you. When you do it unto them, you've done it unto me, he said. So anyhow, the Alan Graham, the Texas Christian nonprofit's Mobile Loaves and Fishes and Community First Village, he said, thankfully, the First Amendment, federal law, and state law protect churches that serve people experiencing homelessness across our country, even when governments attempt to restrict their work. So keep an eye on this. This is going to get interesting. This is from the lawsuit. Again, I'm quoting from friendlyatheist.com. Paxton spends dozens of pages describing all the ways people in the community are disturbed by the people serviced by Sunrise, but he has no plan B to help them out. He wants to shut down the Christian ministry without offering any kind of alternative, and the unhoused people aren't going to go away. They add, if the Republicans running the state government want to give the city enough funding to open new shelters away from local schools, that would be one thing, but that's not the case here. Paxton just wants to shut this one down. So anyhow, they note that these faith-based arguments, like I said, they've had some success with the Supreme Court. Will they succeed here? Will the Supreme Court say, yes, based on your faith, you can be a bigot and deny services to some people, but based on your faith, you can't continue. We're not going to say that based on your faith, you can continue to serve the poor and the homeless. Even though that's the essence at the core, of Christianity. It is at the core of the Sermon on the Mount. It is at the core of Matthew 25, the parable of the goats and the sheep. Look it up. But no, they're saying, not us. Meanwhile, will most media get banned first? I mean, this is something very interesting. Well, also, actually, let me just the separation of church and state, religion and public schools being tested by Christian conservatives. The Texas State Board of Education is going to be voting next month on whether to allow public school districts, this is kind of along the same lines, to opt into a new elementary school curriculum featuring Bible-based lessons. And this material got narrow approval in the Republican State Board of Education, 8-7 vote. So all the Democrats on the board said no, and 3 Republicans joined them and said no, but they still had 8 Republicans who want the Bible in the curriculum for teachers in elementary schools in Texas. And what's bizarre about this, I mean, this is Christian nationalism on steroids, right? What's bizarre about this is that teachers don't have to teach this, but if they do, they get $60 per child per year for putting, this is in their 5th grade classrooms, for putting the Bible into, or religion. Now, let me be very clear. I am not only not opposed to teaching about religion in schools, I'm actually in favor of it. I think that we should have comparative religion classes. I think people need to understand the difference between Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and you know, the ancient you know, Nordic religions. I mean, you know, we have one regular caller, you know, into the program who's always, you know, Happy Freya's Day, right? Freya is the goddess, a Norwegian goddess, right? I mean, there are still people who are practicing Druidism and who are practicing some of the ancient religions. We should be talking about all these things in public schools and pointing out, you know, the various mythologies, because these are all, you know, really mythologies, and the history associated with them. But to advocate belief in any of them is a completely different thing. And that's what they're trying to do in Texas. This is Mark Chauncey. He's a religion studies professor at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. He says, quote, "When a public school plays religious favorites by emphasizing Christianity more than any other tradition, and by teaching about Christianity in a way that's likely to promote encouragement of Christianity's religious claims, then that violates all of our religious freedom." Now, Texas is not alone in this. On January 1st, you know, in 4 weeks, a law goes into effect in Louisiana that requires all teachers K through 12 to post the 10 Commandments in their classrooms. Now, there's an appeal. It's on hold right now, but that's when it's supposed to start. In Oklahoma, the top, you know, Ryan Walters, the top education official for the state, bought a bunch of Trump Bibles and wants to incorporate the Bible into lesson plans. There's a lawsuit there, too. And Walters, the guy in Oklahoma, has even said that teachers who don't teach the Bible could lose their license to teach in Oklahoma. So it's getting pretty wild.